Kathleen Kennedy, the current head of Lucasfilm in charge of such franchises as Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Willow, has been reportedly seeking a graceful exit from the major Disney studio for at least a year, according to reporting from Matt Belloni of Puck News. However, Kennedy has now taken to Deadline to apparently set the record straight on all the news surrounding her reported departure. Let's talk about a fascinating article featuring a one-on-one interview with Kennedy herself here on That Park Place.
Kathleen Kennedy denies retirement rumors in Deadline interview, claims she's not leaving anytime soon. I will die making movies. She said it just like that. It was weird, like the ambiance and the audio setup in the room. It was like it changed, and she grew very tall in Bilbo Baggins' little cabin there, and said instead of having a Dark Lord, you would have a Dark Queen. Anyway,
so she was kind of like I will die making movies. Is that what it's kind of like?
I think that's pretty good. But there would be like a low rumble, like the house is shaking or something like that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It kind of reminds me of this whole conversation. I don't really think that our audience wants to hear us talking about Disney's fairy tale weddings, but they premiered an evil queen wedding dress. All things black and horrible. I can imagine, there are some good people that I know that happen to be goth. Maybe they would want that dress, but generally speaking, I worry about a bride who chooses a evil queen themed wedding dress. maybe if Kathy and Frank Marshall decide to renew their vows, she can really get into the Disney magic and renew them there at that one little chapel right there on the Seven Seas Lagoon. Bye. Okay, so the reason that we're talking about this article, though, Kathleen Kennedy speaks on her Lucasfilm plans. She is not soon retiring, and the films that will keep her in Star Wars orbit for years to come. Sounds like a warning to me here. Mike Fleming Jr. being the interviewer of record. Okay, this article would not have come out if it weren't for Matt Belloni doing his piece in Puck. I believe Matt Belloni was at the Hollywood Reporter before this, and Hollywood Reporter ran with it. I think Deadline ran with it, and Variety definitely ran with it. So all of a sudden, you have Hollywood Trades covering this, and then not long after, a very suspicious piece from CNN saying she's definitely not leaving. And then we have this from Deadline. Right. Before we get into the content of the article, Vash, what do you think about that?
Oh, well, I think it's very, very interesting. Okay, so we have heard that Bob Iger has media contacts and that, he can make things happen within the media and within the trades and so forth. And we also know that Kathleen Kennedy has a little bit of pull as well. This seems kind of like a tug of war. So this is super interesting. Mike Fleming here actually criticizes not only Belloni, but Deadline for running the pieces that suggest that she was leaving Lucasfilm. And it's interesting because this specific article doesn't necessarily say that she's not leaving Lucasfilm. In fact, it actually gives credence to the fact that she is, and that she's been planning to do that for a while. But this article here, it's so bizarre because it kind of frames it or gift wraps it as if that's exactly what is being said here. It's so bizarre. It's so interesting, this tug of war here that we're seeing within media companies.
I'm just going to call it like it is. I think Matt Belloni is an Iger guy. And we don't know for sure in all of this if Bob Iger actually wants Kathleen Kennedy to stay. I think on the surface, in their relationship, he probably needs to look like he wants Kathleen Kennedy to stay as long as she wants. There's some quotes in here that are, I'll say, pretty savory on whether or not she's staying. But, hey, look, Red Tigress is out in the chat, says she will never admit it till it happens and she gets what she wants. Remember, she once was rumored to say she would burn it down on her way out if she did not get what she wants. Some guy named WDW Pro says she's leaving. You say so, sir. Let's see who else we've got here. Commandant VHS, she's just going to be replaced by a doppelganger. I don't know if you know this, but there is literally a Kathleen Kennedy doppelganger out there. Vash, have you seen this?
The Kathleen Kennedy doppelganger. Is that Rain? Rayne? Is that who that was?
No.
That was in her. That was apparently the rumors is that she was trying to train her up in order to succeed her one day, but then she got moved over for Searchlight, I believe.
No, I'm being much more literal in the idea that Kathleen Kennedy has a doppelganger. Every now and then we bring this up. Kathleen Kennedy has a twin sister.
Oh, I completely forgotten about that. Yes, that's really something right there. Hey, there we go. We now know the successor.
Yes, we do. Caitlin Kennedy. No, she's this is Connie, and she looks like a little bit happier version of Kathleen Kennedy. Maybe it's because she's not saddled with the weight of trying to make Star Wars movies that don't involve George Lucas.
Well, Jonas, the dark side is said to have transformative effects, so that might be why the inconsistency there.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, so let's talk about this article, and it reads so weird. I'd thought I'd seen it all in trade journalism, but the piranha-like frenzy on Kathleen Kennedy and the successor speculation that followed Matt Belloni's Puck report that Disney was putting her out to pasture is a new one on me. Belloni for years has been beating on Kennedy like she owes him money, and this week he reported Kennedy was retiring. I recall he essentially did the same thing more than a year ago, and yet here she still is, producing the Mandalorian movie and prepping the Sean Levy-directed Star Wars film that Ryan Gosling is circling, as well as numerous other film and streaming projects with A-list participants. Okay. All right, press pool. Thank you very much. Also, if I remember that report correctly, Matt Belloni said that Kathleen Kennedy was preparing to tell Disney that she was intending to leave. This makes it seem like maybe Disney was getting the story out there that Kathleen Kennedy was getting ready to tell people.
Huh. That's an interesting little twist there, huh?
It's interesting when you hear the story repeated back and the person with the real information changes the story. Still, the trades follow with gusto, dishing speculative reporting on who might succeed Kennedy. The takeaway was chaos and that Kennedy was being pushed. Interesting. The reality is different and far more orderly. And I would imagine that Kennedy prefers order, maybe the first order. According to insiders, Kennedy has been working on a succession plan for a couple years, eyeing candidates from within in process with Bob Iger and Alan Bergman. That puts someone like Dave Filoni, who knows the universe inside out, in a strong position. So it sounds like they're doing succession planning.
Yes, I think they very much are, which might explain a couple of things on how this all has been working out and why maybe Belloni has been informed that Kathleen Kennedy was going to be stepping away here. Perhaps getting multiple people involved in the process of succession was what kind of leaked this out here. And the way that Kathleen Kennedy describes it is very, very interesting. It almost gives me JPEG vibes, but I guess we'll get into it.
Yeah. This is very strange to me. In fact, that they are doing this, and they're saying the first step to denying that Kathleen Kennedy is leaving is talking about the plans she's making for leaving. That might be an oversimplification at this point, but sounds like she's actually agreeing, and the fact that she is probably has some sign off on this interview because he rarely does real interviews. But let's keep reading. I admire Belloni's hustle and ability to turn over hard ground, but this penchant for defining industry people like Kennedy in disparaging ways, well, I just don't understand that. He's a nice guy, you see, that Mike Fleming Jr. I didn't appreciate it when Deadline founder Nikki Finke did it here, and it feels like the appetite for Schadenfreude is nowhere near as high now, given how this business is still trying to regain footing after the global pandemic, the year-long labor strikes, and most recently, the devastating wildfires that ravaged Southern California. Oh my goodness, Mike, what are you on about? We're talking about an executive who hasn't gotten a movie into theaters in like 6 years. This has nothing to do with any of that.
That's a bizarre sentence.
I forget. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny did make it into theaters. So I forgot about that one. But still,
So
Kennedy
did
would.
everybody else, but
Yeah. Vash. Kennedy would seem an unlikely target for ire in good times or bad. 13 years into her run steering Lucasfilm, she has done much with the challenge of trying to broaden George Lucas' Star Wars vision after Disney bought it from him for $4 billion in cash and stock in 2012.
I'm going to suggest we skip the very next paragraph because it goes into her career outside of Lucasfilm and sings the praises of Kathleen Kennedy pretty hard, including in the Lucasfilm era. But it's that sorry Matt paragraph that's just below that. That's very interesting.
All right. We'll skip ahead. All right. So sorry, Matt. The woman is a first ballot Hall of Famer, not someone who deserves to be batted around like a piñata. Ooh. She also deserves to own her own narrative and demystify his pseudo drama. Okay, Mike. Deadline gave Kennedy that opportunity, catching her just before she headed off to be honored tonight with husband Frank Marshall at the Oscar Wilde Award. So she's getting a lot of awards. That's good. I would say that's good. RJ McCready, she has more bombs than her. Fair enough. She's got a few more to squeeze out there. Oh my.
I mean, think of the phrasing of that last sentence right there. She's off to win another award for all of those films that she got coffee for. I mean, she is just so very impactful at Hollywood right here. And it's like, look, listen, I understand, but I get it. Her name is attached to so many different films, but you really got to ask yourself: did those materialize because of Kathleen Kennedy or in spite of her? That's the real thing that I don't think there's a lot of delineation there in the trades, at least when it comes to her earlier career, because we've seen when she has creative control over these decisions, they don't always go the best. And so, this whole heaping up praise on her, like, I get it. But even Hall of Famers, they have their time, they expire. It's what have you done for me lately?
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Also, I kind of long for the days when we didn't see the seams on a Star Wars film nearly as much. Like now there's some list of like 15 different productions that started and have failed to make it into theaters. It makes me wonder because every now and then we'll get indications of yet another filmmaker coming out and saying, "Yeah, I was working on something. It never came to fruition." Guillermo del Toro was one, for instance, that he was working on something. Maybe it was the Boba Fett film. Maybe it was something dark and GDT-ish. And then he said it just didn't work out. But hey, look who we're welcoming to the panel. A good friend and the editor-in-chief of That Park Place, Marvin Montanaro. Marvin, you doing well?
We're talking about the Defiance, huh?
The "How dare you, sir? She is a queen" article from Mike Fleming.
Oh my gosh, she's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Come on, I love him. Like, get up out of her butt. So I'm writing an article today because Belloni responded to this.
Oh, did he?
Oh, did he ever? He refers to this writer as a man who has never met a Hollywood producer whose rectal cavity he did not climb into.
Whoa. I mean, based off the tone of the article, yeah, it's hard to disagree with that.
This is a full-on cat fight between these guys.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about Mike Fleming versus Matt Belloni, I have my disagreements with Belloni. I'm sure ideologically we are very far apart on many things, but his scoops are pretty good. There's a moment or two where it seems like he might push out a little bit of spin here and there in the favor of some of his sources, but I really don't think that's the case here.
Have we started putting on the tinfoil hats about this yet and given our conspiracy theories? Because I have one.
We have not yet, but go ahead.
Oh no! So yeah, this is my the turn in the frogs case theory about this is that the original Matt Belloni article was Bob Iger. Bob Iger leaked that out. Bob Iger put that out. Kathleen Kennedy had no idea that it was happening. It blindsided her, and then she reached out to a friendly outlet to fire back and try to control the narrative. I think this is interstudio politics. I think this is Iger versus Kennedy, and I think that we're seeing it play out in front of us because there's no way that Puck, Variety, and Hollywood Reporter ran with this unless it came from Iger.
I think especially Puck. Yes, I think that Iger is looking for some relief here, not for letting everybody know that Kathleen Kennedy is doing a great job.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's telling. I haven't fully looked into this yet, but I was just told we were just recording the first episode of the That Park Place VIP member podcast with myself and the writing team, and Francesco Salbach, our writer, was telling me that when they announced that she was leaving, he watched the Disney stock and there was no negative change whatsoever. And in fact, I think it might have even gone up a little bit. I'm not sure, but and that is bad news for Kathleen Kennedy.
I think that's a very good point. And you can never quite tell what's going to move the Disney stock price, but the people that make it onto the earnings call and these are the people that Disney pays attention to, because last time I checked, Disney was like 65% held by institutional investors, which means that nobody personally in that crowd invests in Disney. It's all your BlackRocks, your State Streets, your Vanguards, your Blackstones, and all of those are the ones that control a vast majority of the voting shares in the Disney company, which is why probably why the campaign from Nelson Peltz ended up failing. Or, we say failing. He ended up making more than $1 billion on that proxy fight. And now the stock price is back to where it was before he was pushing for everything there. But yeah, there's not a single mention on the news sites about Kathleen Kennedy leaving the financial news site that I'm looking at.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the Disney stock right now, and it looks like on Wednesday, the day after this all dropped, it jumped from $110.11, and by the end of the day was up to $113.05. So I mean, it saw actually pretty decent leap.
Yeah.
When it was announced that she was leaving.
I mean, if anybody is actually interested in renewed interest in Star Wars, then they would. Kathleen Kennedy has done essentially nothing with this for a very long time, and the shows that she has
ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
Don't you know, Jonas, that there would be no Jurassic Park, no E.T., no Raiders of the Lost Ark if it was not for Kathleen Kennedy? I saw someone make that argument on X the other day.
Wow. Wow.
And he said, these things wouldn't have happened. I said, no, they would have happened. Steven Spielberg probably would have just been in a better mood on the set when they were being made. Like Steven Spielberg would have been slightly less caffeinated.
Better coffee. No.
Yeah.
Gennaro's death would have been a little less gruesome.
Well, think about it, though. I mean, think about the documentaries that they've made on Back to the Future and Jurassic Park and all these films that they list here in this article. You almost never see or feature in any of them because people understand and recognize who really made those films happen. So the fact that we're trying to, attribute them to her now is insane. Like it's almost like gaslighting almost.
It's not almost like gaslighting. It is gaslighting.
Indeed, I suppose so.
Yeah,
it's like textbook.
So here's the treat that we don't usually get when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy. She does not usually do interviews, and this is like we're getting paragraphs of direct quotes from Kathleen Kennedy here. So let's enjoy.
This is why I think that my theory is correct, because this is defiant, angry Kathleen Kennedy, a woman obsessed with legacy.
Yep.
And this is go for it. This is insane.
Yep. So I'll read it in the voice that I think it needs to be read. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, and I just want to say this loud and clear, I am not retiring. I will never retire from movies. I will die making movies. That is the first thing that's important to say. I am not retiring. What's happening at Lucasfilm is I have been talking for quite some time with Bob and Alan about what eventual succession might look like. We have an amazing bench of people here. Oof. And we have every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the road. We are in lockstep as to what that's going to be, and I am continuing. I'm producing the Mandalorian movie right now. I'm also producing Sean Levy's movie, which is after that. So I'm continuing to stay at Lucasfilm and looking very thoughtfully with Bob and Alan as to who's stepping in so that that is all underway, and we have every right to make that announcement when we want to make it.
That is
That is-
defiant.
Yeah.
Crazy.
If she talked to Frank like that, I would think Frank would think he's in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like she's threatening the audience or something. It's so bizarre. It's so weird. But remember, she says it twice here. Bob Iger, Alan Bergman, definitely part of this process right here. And she's thinking very thoughtfully about who's stepping in. Later in this interview, she'll go on to say what that arrangement actually looks like, which is very interesting all into itself.
What
But,
she's doing, Vash, I think what she's doing here is she is trying to control the narrative and be like, when I leave, it is not because they fired me. It's because I chose to leave and I chose who's going to be my successor and I'm in charge and I'm the boss, darn it.
I mean, look at all of these quotes here. And then you get to the bottom deadline, which is Mike Fleming here saying, when it happens, who will make the decision? It sounds like he's like staring at the audience as he asks Kathleen Kennedy so that she can prove it. Me, it's my decision. This is 100% my decision.
Me. It's
Can you even
my
imagine if even when Bob Iger was in that proxy battle with Nelson Peltz, first of all, the board was out there talking about how great Bob Iger is to the point it was like, okay, can you all just shut up? First of all, they have not said they want to fire Bob Iger. That is not on the list of things that they've actually called for. They have called for greater oversight on the governance board, but Disney's responses were to try to frame it as you're trying to fire Bob Iger, which, by the way, is not what Nelson Peltz's MO was. Whatever. This right here, she isn't even allowing an intermediary to say any of this. She is saying, it's my decision, 100% my decision. This is a power play right here.
No, and although no, it's not. It's not your decision, lady. Because at the end of the day, Bob Iger still has to approve your decision. If you decide it's going to be someone that he doesn't like, it's not going to be that person.
I get like almost like Queen Mary or Marie Antoinette type vibes here. It's just so like, it's me. I'm going to make this decision. This is all me. I am in full control. I mean, it's like, whoa, you talk about the male ego. It's like, well,
any man who must say I am the king is no true king. To quote Tywin Lannister.
It's a good quote. Hey, Albertus Magnus with $20. KK's sole ambition at Lucasfilm has been and continues to be her own petty vanity. She wants awards, accolades, praise. She relishes in being celebrated. KK is the pinnacle of talentless amateurishness. Sorry, I had to chew on that word a little bit.
She made a career out of being in the right rooms at the right time, and this reads to me like someone with a massive inferiority complex trying to justify her existence in an industry that has never needed her in any way, shape, or form.
Now, well, it gets crazier. I want to feature this one quote from her because there's so much packed in here.
Is it the chaos quote?
Yes, it's the chaos quote. Deadline asks, this flurry of press coverage sounds like chaos. What's the reality? Kennedy, chaos. There's never been any chaos because we know exactly what the plan is. No, I won't read it like that. And we've been talking about it. And as I said, nonstop for the last couple of years, because for obvious reasons, I'm not going to be here forever. George asked me 13 years ago to step in. And now I'm looking at who's going to replace me. And as I said, we have a bench full of people internally to handle the business, the creative side. That's interesting. She separates those roles there. The job has grown also since I stepped in. There was no streaming. There weren't a lot of things that we're involved in right now going on so it has grown. She says later on that it's grown in a way that even George Lucas couldn't have imagined.
I'm pretty sure George Lucas had ideas about where Star Wars could go, and it's not where it is.
I believe it has definitely produced a groan of that's wrung out over a decade and a half here. A groan of everyone going, why are you doing this? Why won't you stop? The first film, the first sequel trilogy film, made $2 billion. I think Solo might have made less at the box office than it cost to make it. I'm not even gonna bother looking because it's close. And then the Rise of Skywalker, which is supposed to be the sequel to every single Star Wars movie that had ever come out before this, made $1 billion at the box office. There's not enough room for that film to even be profitable. When you look at how much it cost versus how much it made, they lost money making that film.
That's something that not a lot of people ever talk about. People always try to say that because it made $1 billion, that Rise of Skywalker was a success. But even if you do want to make the point that all of these movies were actually in the black and they were successful, each subsequent film in that trilogy made less than the one before it. That's not a thing you want to see.
Yeah, that's canceling Amazing Spider-Man 3 territory right there. They were a mess, an absolute mess. The thing that I really want to come back to here is Kathleen Kennedy denying that she is leaving while talking about all the plans for her leaving. I don't think she really thought through what that looks like to everyone else. It seems like she was caught looking like she's going to leave and then had to make sure that everybody knows, no, we're doing this my way. This to me reads like a person who is not in control of the situation, who wants to feel like she's in control of the situation.
Well, there's an episode of Scrubs where Dr. Kelso goes away for a week to a conference and he puts a big portrait of himself up in the hospital, and Dr. Cox puts like a in memoriam plaque on it, so the entire hospital thinks that he's dead, and people are like celebrating it. And Dr. Kelso comes back and sees people celebrating this, and it like incenses him. That's what happened here. She watched the collective Star Wars fan base and media dance to the Yub Nub song with the news of her departure, and it drove her insane.
Yeah,
it would be Yub Nub too. It wouldn't be Celebration, as great as John Williams' composition is on Celebration.
That score.
If you look at our original article on this on That Park Place, where it was announced that she was leaving, I literally put the Yub Nub song in the article. Like I put the YouTube video of the Yub Nub song in, and I said take a minute and listen to this while you read the article.
Oh, well, beautiful.
And she confirms a couple of things, right? She confirms the succession process and how she'll be in charge of picking her successor. That's a kind of a new revelation there that, really does, I think, confirm from a lot of people's speculations on who next in line might be to replace her here. That's an interesting callback. She compares. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say my fear on the succession thing is, I feel like whoever doesn't get Bob Iger's job might get Lucasfilm as a concession. So we might get Dana Walden in control of Lucasfilm because she didn't get the CEO job.
So awful. Oh, that would be so awful. The woman who was proud to say that we had a lot of great candidates, but too many of them were white or straight or male. She didn't use those direct words, but she said that they weren't diverse enough, and so she said no. Fascinating. I don't understand how this has been allowed to happen for so long. I don't want to say that Kathleen Kennedy was a DEI hire. She is something else. I think DEI has kept her in that position, as well as the fact that she knows where the bodies are buried. Of course, there's the counter argument to that, is that some people might know where Kathleen Kennedy's bodies are buried as well.
I think that I think George considered her a friend. George trusted her. And George should not have trusted her because she turned on him the second she got the chair.
Yeah. Yep. I do believe in Bob Iger's Ride of a Lifetime. He points out that Kathleen Kennedy, George Lucas is the one who chose Kathleen Kennedy, but he also did that. Maybe the timeline's a little iffy to me here, that maybe he put Kathleen Kennedy in charge of Lucasfilm and then told Kathleen Kennedy that he was selling Lucasfilm to Disney. So Bob Iger does not take credit for Kathleen Kennedy. No.
And her lack of reverence towards George is really telling in this article. She compares herself to George over and over again, how much better she is in the role because she's handling so much. The Empire has grown so much, you see. And George, he gave us all these amazing tools to tell these amazing stories, but we've taken it further, constantly saying that she's one-upped him in some way, and that's a bizarre mindset, and we've seen that mindset too from some of her acolytes, like the head of the acolyte, Why can't I think of her name? Why?
Leslie Headland.
Leslie
Leslie
Headland.
Headland, yes.
Harvey
Remember-
Weinstein's former personal assistant, Leslie Headland. That's how you have to say it.
Thank you so much, Marvin and Jonas, for that. But remember, she was comparing herself to George Lucas and saying, "Oh, well, he doesn't have all of the answers. You see, anybody can be a George Lucas." And so, to carry on that mindset with Kathleen Kennedy, it does speak to the organization that she has built in absence of George Lucas, and it's it explains the creative output coming from the studio.
Leslie Headland also compared herself to Vince Gilligan several times, just to let the record show. Which I found to be the most offensive thing she ever said. She kept comparing the acolyte to Breaking Bad, and I was like, "How dare you?
Yeah,
How dare you?"
Vince Gilligan is one of those guys that writes normal people doing extraordinary things.
Mhm.
Like he writes the most relatable characters in this story. That it's a this. If you described it, it would sound like it's a cop procedural, but it's not. It's Symphony of the Normal Man is what it is. Anyways, sorry, not to geek out on Vince Gilligan too much, but he's an amazing writer.
So we're rewatching Breaking Bad, right? Oh, well, my wife is watching it for the first time because I was like, "You married a white guy, you have to watch Breaking Bad. This is like a rite of passage."
It's in page 3 of the Honky Rules of the Road.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think I'm allowed to say that, right? I'm light skinned enough. Okay,
it's okay. It's our word.
That's our word. That's right.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.